Hour number 2 of the show here on your Thursday. Matt Patrick here. And joining us right now from the best news outlet in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and in Minnesota, it's the Minnesota Reformer. Max Nesterak is kind enough to join us today. Republicans smeared Ilhan Omar over a faulty translation. Here's what she really said. It's a rebuttal piece, basically, to the news that's been breaking from Patrick Hooligan and Max Nesterak. And Max, once again, taking some time to talk about their findings. Max, thank you very much. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks so much for having me on and for the high praise of Minnesota Reformer.
Oh, well, it is. It's hands down. It's you get because of this. How about we just start with this? What you did there was what Journalism 101 is. There is this question on whether or something that Ilhan Omar said was accurate. There was a translation of it. It led to Tom Emmer and other Republicans screaming for her to be not only punished in the U.S. House, but even calls for her to be expelled from the country. And apparently at no point did any of these Republicans ask if the translation that they were going off of was accurate. And it seems like, once again, let's start there. The translation itself of the original translation, which was posted by Alpha News, the far right opinion validation network here, that basically Alpha News, that translation was not correct. Is that a fair way to say it?
That's right. So this broke about, was it just earlier this week? It was, and feels like longer.
It does.
It was a clip that was posted on Twitter by a woman who says she's the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Republic of Somaliland. And it had this translation showing that Ilhan Omar said we're Somalian first and Muslim second, and saying that America will do what she tells them to do, what Somalis tell them to do, and protect Somali interests. And so Republicans took this as Omar pledging allegiance to Somalia and the Muslim faith over being an American, and among other things in this transcript. And there was one red flag in there among a couple, but one that caught my attention right off the bat was Somalian. It said we're Somalian first, and not everyone knows this, but Somali people don't like the term Somalian. So it just seems strange that this translation, if it were in good faith, would use the term Somalian rather than Somali. So that tipped us off. The other thing was that it was shared by the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs for Somaliland, which is kind of a breakaway region of northern Somalia and is not recognized by the international community or the United States as an independent country. And so we thought there must be more there, but to find out, we need to solicit independent translations of her remarks. And so that's what we did. We found two translators. One is a federally certified court interpreter, and got those translations. And while there were similarities, of course, between what was posted or what went viral and the ones that we received, there were some very key differences, and it was much less strident than the one that Tom Emmer used, for example, in calling for Omar to resign in disgrace.
The individual that posted this faulty translation, is this a real person? Have you been able to identify whether this person is really actually a human being, or is this a phantom troll account of some nature?
That's a good question. I have we don't have evidence to think that this isn't a high-ranking person for Somaliland, but we didn't get as far into verifying that this specific account belongs to her and she runs it. Our primary focus was what Omar said or purported to say really what she said? Is that how it would be understood by the people in the audience? And our findings is, she didn't say I'm Somali first and Muslim second. One of our interpreters said that in itself is strange too, because observant Muslims usually wouldn't say that they are Muslims second to anything.
Mm-hmm.
And according to our translation, instead she said, we are people who know that they are Somali and Muslim. We are people who support each other. So that's much different than saying you're Somalian first and Muslim second and American who knows where in the list.
Well,
which was
and
the
if I
implication of that translation.
If I can step in here really quick before people get, oh, well, look how dangerous it is. How many people on the right in this country say Christian first, Republican second, or Christian first, Trump supporter, then Republican, or American? It's kind of one of those things. It's a common thing within certain groups that they basically, that putting their religion first and foremost is fairly common. This is not any sort of nefarious thing. This is just the culture, and that's what they do it. And we do it in right-wing America too, where they say, Christian first. So they're kind of, it's one of those things where, as I look at this, the whole thing seems like almost like a setup, because I want to point out Alpha News, and this is me saying this, I don't think it's exactly a high journalistic standard when they themselves, in their quote-unquote news story, put the line, "We have not independently verified the accuracy of this translation." They themselves are admitting in their news story they don't know if it's legit, or maybe they do. It's hard to say, but the reality is that was the catalyst for the Republicans to jump on this and go for the attack. I will give credit to, as well, the Star Tribune, who is, well, I think they brought in one of their journalists who spoke Somali, and their translation it was pretty much exact to what Ilhan Omar did submit to the Star Tribune as the actual translation. So it was kind of clear at that point that there seemed to be, at the very least, some level of intentional ignorance. At worst, a fix was in. And so your guys, you did not use the same interpreter that the Star Tribune did, correct?
No.
Okay. So these would be two different ones. And did you notice, was with the two different interpreters of this, was there any differences in those two translations?
Yeah, and for just to go back to Alpha News, I mean, at least to give props, at least they were transparent to say that they didn't independently verify that. I mean, if that's our bare minimum, I do think at least they gave that transparency to readers to say we're sharing something that we don't know if it's true or not. In terms of the interpretations, the translation is such an art, and so both translations that came back had differences in verbiage. One, said bickering, whereas another said have disagreements, and so certainly there's differences there. You're never going to get 100% similarities there, but the meaning and the intent was identical versus the differences that you could see with the one that was shared on Twitter. And so I haven't seen the entire translation from the Star Tribune. I don't believe they posted one.
I don't think they did either, no.
Right, but the other key point of her not saying I'm Somali first and Muslim second, that was another point that the Star Tribune made as well.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, did you go off? I mean, I'm presuming you have Ilhan Omar's official release on what was actually said, correct?
Yes.
Yes. This is part of a long process here that we have seen in regards to this absolute unfathomed hatred towards Ilhan Omar from certain elements of the Republican Party. And it does not surprise me, and I got to tell you the truth. It's been amazing to me how many Republicans now insist they're experts in the Somali language. They're insisting that no, this original interpretation was the only one that's there. Does it matter? I mean, and as a journalist, I mean, does it matter that you guys did your due diligence? The Star Tribune did their due diligence. We have the close enough, some minor differences, but translations that back up that no, she never said this. Does it matter that we're putting this information out there, or the people that just want to believe Ilhan Omar is bad are just going to believe she's bad?
Well, that is a big philosophical question about what is even the point of doing journalism. But I think yes. because it's out there. People are always, going to have different beliefs and interpretations of what happened. And we're going out with, our reporting and being as transparent as possible and allowing people to decide for themselves by showing our work, saying we have 2 interpreters. One is a federally certified court interpreter. Here's the translation. Here's the context that we've gathered, and it's up for you to decide. But to your point, yeah, there's certainly a faction of people who are going to believe the worst about Representative Omar. I think that's fair to say. And but again, I just hope our reporting will point people to some red flags here. You have in her statement, she's saying, part of what she was saying at this speech was decrying a deal between Somaliland, this breakaway region, and Ethiopia for Ethiopia to build a port on contested shoreline. And so when you see something from the Foreign Affairs Minister of Somaliland doing something unfavorable for Omar, who obviously disagrees about them building this port, doesn't that raise red flags for you that the person who's sharing this video has a certain political agenda? So to see the pile-on Representative Omar is just kind of, it's predictable, but it's a little bit disappointing given, to your point, it just seems like people are ready to pile on no matter what it is or who it's coming from without having some critical thinking of where is this attack coming from and can I trust it? And that's what's so important with journalism. And that we went into this story without wanting a particular outcome. We just wanted to know, what did Omar say? And we reported our findings. And, I saw a lot of criticism on social media of why are the media being silent on this? Why isn't this in the local press? And it's like, hold on, everybody, give us some time. We got to weigh these allegations. We got to find a translator. And it took a couple days, but we did it.
Well, because you're not just putting out right-wing talking points and disguising it as news. You're out there trying to actually find out what the truth of the story is. And kudos to you. Once again, you succeed with flying colors. You guys do a great job over there. Tom Emmer is not just a congressman. He's in senior leadership of the Republican House. So his threats here have a lot of merit to them. So far, I know he did not contact back the Star Tribune when they pointed out his criticism was coming from a bad translation. Have you heard anything? I know your story says Emmer's office didn't respond to request for comment. Has he gotten back in touch with you since you posted?
No, we have a request out, and we are, and that was part of our request. Is I see you made this statement based on this one translation. Here's the translation that we have. Do you still take issue with it? If so, what in the statement do you take issue with? And we would like to hear, and we would have printed that. What does Emmer find fault with in this interpretation? We didn't hear back from him. We have followed up, so we're ready to hear if there are still reasons why he thinks Omar should, quote, resign in disgrace based on this interpretation or not. We're receptive and would be interested to hear what he thinks.
If I can say, and to Congressman Omar, I think this is horrible what's happening here. If there is one light silver lining to this cloud, the fact is it amazes me sometimes. I'll watch the BBC and I'm like, wow, there's a lot of things going on we don't know a dang thing about. And at least it is shining a little bit of a light on a foreign policy issue. We probably, especially considering that contested region of the shipping lanes over there, I think we probably should be a little more concerned about this. So if there is any level to this, I guarantee you there's probably been more searches of what this issue is in the last 24 hours in this country than probably than the last year.
That's right. It's so funny. I was joking with my colleagues that this has just made Ilhan Omar has kind of polarized right-wingers into becoming experts in Horn of Africa geopolitics. Not sure how well that's playing off, but we saw it too with the Minnesota state flag, right? It's like all of a sudden everybody knew what every state flag of Somalia looked like because apparently it was too similar to our state flag. So it's just it's just interesting to see what gets people interested in the topic.
A state flag that was approved by, let me check the list, Steve Drazkowski. Okay, never mind. I think we were done talking about that. But okay. Hey, excellent work. No, and once again, I'm the shameless hack. You guys are great journalists there. You guys are doing a good job. And you just did what great journalism does. You don't know what the answer is going to be, but you go and find it and you post it and you basically inform people. And I think it's a service that we need more of our journalists to do. And so I commend you guys on this. Great work as always there from the Minnesota Reformer.
Well, thanks so much for having us on.
My pleasure. Max Nesterak, kind enough to join us today on a Thursday to talk about this. I'll share a few more points when I do come back. It is the Matt McNeil Show right here on AM 950.